Good. All right. Vulnerability, eh? Hi.
Everyone's favorite thing.
Yeah, everyone's here because they're like, vulnerability, my favorite. Well, welcome to those of you who are here. We have the beautiful Tracy Kopp with me tonight to talk about vulnerability. So vulnerability is definitely the thing that keeps being like the main reason people show up, and it's the main thing people talk to me about when it comes to this work. They're like, I'm really scared to do this thing, or I don't want to post anything because I'm feeling, vulnerable. And it's like, or I've shared this thing and I'm feeling really vulnerable about it. Like, I think vulnerability just seems to be the key word of this, the stuff that we do. And it's because we're talking about creativity, and we're talking about showing up, being ourselves, shining our light, being seen, being heard, having full expression. And all of that requires vulnerability. You can't have any courage without vulnerability. It's like step number one, and it's bloody scary. So we're going to talk about it tonight. We're going to talk about why it's like, what is vulnerability? Why is it scary? And this is a really interactive chat. So I would love all of you in the chat to just, ask questions or put your hand up if there's something we're talking about and you're like, I'd really love to share an example of that. Please do, because I don't want this to be like, okay, here's the dictionary definition of vulnerability, and now you know everything. Congratulations, you will graduate. It's not like that. So that's why I invited Tracy tonight, because so Tracy is a core grad, that's how I met her. I don't actually know how Tracy found core, but she found core, and she's like, what the hell is the core method? Don't care, I'm doing it, as a lot of you have. Tracy can tell you a bit more about her experience with that in the field of vulnerability. But the main reason I brought Tracy here is because for the last few months in isolation, in lockdown, one of the only people I have seen on a bi-weekly basis has been Tracy, because she's my chiropractor. And sometimes I'll tell you, okay, this is me being really vulnerable right now. I'm going to tell you the truth. Sometimes I didn't really need to see. Sometimes my back was actually not too bad. But she was the person I was allowed to see on a weekly or bi-weekly basis, where I was able to see someone who I loved, that I could connect with. And we have really deep, beautiful, like those conversations. And you all know this because you're all, there's another person in the waiting room. You've all experienced those people where you just like feel like you can be yourself, say anything, have the best time, you feel joy, even if you're talking about really hard things, or even if you're talking like whatever you're talking about, like you feel this like relief in your body, and you can show up as you are, even if you have completely different, you're talking about something and you don't agree, like there's people you can just like relax with and be yourself. So Tracy is one of those people to me. She's the vulnerability queen in my mind, and we've just talked a lot about vulnerability lately, and now we all can talk together. So welcome everyone else who is here and who just jumped in, and welcome to Tracy. Tracy, would you like to introduce yourself? Even though I just introduced you.
Sure, yeah, I will. I'm Tracy. Hello. I'm also Trixie in some places, and lots of other things. I'm a chiropractor. I have a health clinic. I'm a mama. I'm a person. There's lots of things that I could say. I met Kat when I did the core method last year, and I just signed up and jumped in. And I don't know if any of you guys have done this in person yet. I'm guessing some of you have. And so for me, I had wanted to do stand-up comedy or maybe sing. I wasn't sure, some kind of public speaking. And I rolled up and found out very early in the piece that I wasn't going to start rehearsing something from the very first week of the 9 weeks. I was just going to wing it and work it out as time went along. And for me, it had been a really long time, maybe since when I was a kid that I'd been happy to get up and speak in public or sing in public or do any of those, anything where I was witnessed in public. And it was a big deal for me to do that. And since then, I feel like I've created a lot more in my life in every area, in fact. So I've got Kat to thank for that, which has been a real blessing for me in my life and the people around me. So that's me.
Thanks, babe.
Mm.
Amazing. Let's just talk about vulnerability without going. I do not want us to get it right tonight. I don't want to give you the definition and for you to go off and go, this is what vulnerability is, because you all know, each of you already know what vulnerability is to you. All of you already know what it feels like. And so as we're talking tonight, I really want you to take the bits that feel like you connect with them, the bits that you don't. Something that I've really gotten really good at actually is like, if there's bits that I don't connect with, you kind of can start going, actually, I don't agree with that. And that feels like not aligned with me, and that's okay. Or I need to speak about that. You might feel like, actually, I have something else to add to that, or that doesn't feel quite right. And you feel like you want to voice that, and that's fine. And the other thing is you can grow and learn, and we can change. And I think in these conversations, and the reason why I want to start having a lot more of these conversations is because I have my idea of what vulnerability is, but the more I hear from different people and their experience, the more I learn, the more I see within myself. And all of a sudden I have new tools. I have new, like I'm just even looking at someone in this group right now, and it like makes me feel so, oh my God, like someone in this group tonight, I saw show up with something really big, and I hadn't thought of that as, how do I explain this without going too obvious of who it is and what it is, but something that I was hiding in my life and no one knew about. This person showed up publicly and said, this is me and this is what I'm dealing with. And I went, oh my gosh, like that. And I started really connecting and listening and learning, and it gave me permission not to straight away. I wasn't ready to go, this is me and this is what I now have to do. But I started watching and learning from someone who is a student as well. And that's the thing, we can learn from each other. And because I could do that, I then had the courage when I was ready, because I'd seen this person show up in full vulnerability. And so that gave me then the permission when I was ready to do the same thing. So each of you have done that for me in different ways. Like in any of our, like everyone here, I've had conversations with at least, and I gain things because I stay open. I don't know all. I am not here to give you all the answers. I'm here to have these conversations so we can learn about each other more, yeah, and ourselves. So Trixie, I'm just going to call you Trixie because I keep changing it. I'll call you T, sexy babe, mama, like whatever I feel like calling you, I'll just do it. So I would love to know from you, like, what is vulnerability to you? And just like, let it come out, right, wrong, all the bits. If a story comes up with it, like, what is vulnerability to you?
It's always a story, isn't it?
Yeah.
So, well, you know, I was thinking about what I might talk about tonight, and, you know, you asked me to share some things, and I sat today and I was really thinking about what that feels like for me. And I've got a lot of stories in my life around, you know, things that have hurt and ways that I've let myself down, and, you know, things that I've done to other people, or ways that I've told myself I'm not good enough, you know, all of those things. And I think we've all got all of those things somewhere. And I sat down and thought, well, you know, what can I share? Maybe, you know, how can I share what vulnerability looks like for me? And I guess I realized that because we all have all of those things, for me, what vulnerability really looks like is when we are prepared to show up and take action on something that's been hard or that we've been hiding or running away from. And I think it can be in a positive, hang on, I want to say this right. I feel like it can be something positive that we're taking action toward, or it can be something that we've been doing that's not been positive, I guess, or been serving us, that we want to move away from. So I feel like you can kind of move in different directions when you're moving into vulnerability, I guess, is what I want to say. So for me, you know, there's been times in my life where as a parent, I've recognised, I have a daughter who's 21, and I've recognised at different times as a mum that I've been a real jerk and done a really shit job. And if you're a child of a human, you probably know what it feels like to have a parent at some point be like, no, it's all your fault. Everything's your fault. And I'm not going to take any responsibility for the way I've parented you because I'm perfect. I don't know if anybody else has a parent who's done that, but that's been always my experience. And so that's a big area in my life where I've been trying to face things that are hard. Interpersonal relationships, I think, are really important. And then other areas that I'm really enjoying now that I've faced some of those harder things are more around like, okay, so what are my gifts in the world and what do I want to create and what do I want to show up and do and let people see? And how am I going to do that? And for me, stepping into those places is really vulnerable also.
Can you give me an example, like when you were talking about you know, that stepping into it and it can being something that you know is right, but it's, you know, and it's the good zone, but you were talking a bit more about like stepping into the kind of unsure, ugly zone. Like do you have an example of that? It doesn't have to be your example, but just so I can get clear on what you mean.
So you mean like stepping into one of my gifts maybe, for example?
Yeah, so like you were just saying that there's like the good things and the bad things.
Yeah.
It's like it's not always just good, you know, a vulnerability doesn't always lead into the great.
No.
So yeah, can you explain a bit more about that?
Oh, okay. So whew. Wow, fuck. All right. Okay. All right. You're gonna make me go there right away. All right. So no, it's okay. So yeah, so I guess I'm going to use my relationship with my daughter to talk about this, and it's a really big thing for me. So I was in a relationship that was quite toxic and codependent for a long time, and as my daughter was a teenager, she watched all of this, and she kept saying to me, "What are you doing? This guy's a dick." Because she's smarter than me, thankfully, and there's an example right there. So so she, you know, she'd call me out and question me all the time, and for years as a mum, because I'm supposed to be the mum and I'm supposed to have this, you know, and so for all these years I kept saying to her, no, 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 and I feel like at times she'd really catch something in me and make me go, oh, she's right, you know, and I'd feel it, and I'd feel that point of like, oh, real shame, you know, really noticing that I've been caught here and I'm doing something that isn't serving me, and someone else can see it, and then I see it, but instead of facing it right there and then, because I wasn't ready to, I would layer other things on top of it, you know. So I'd yell at her, I'd make it her fault, I'd go and drink a bottle of wine, I'd, you know, do whatever, make some big drama. Go and smoke 1,000 cigarettes in my garage, like whatever the things were to run away from that feeling of, if I actually be vulnerable, I have to face this thing and step out of playing small and letting myself stay in this little trap of my own making. And I have to actually step forward and do something that's hard.
Yeah. And it's what you know, like it's what you're used to doing. And even if it's uncomfortable, we've all been in those situations where it's like, it's not comfortable, but we know it so well. And it's almost like we get addicted to that. So we don't know how to get out of it. And we know that if we get out of it, like that would serve us better, but we don't know what that looks like or what steps to take for it not to feel like such a huge, like, you know, fall off a cliff, jumping like face plant. Thank you for sharing that T, because I know, yeah, that's a very vulnerable story. I just love that you share that, because even if we are hearing that and not seeing that exact story, I just feel, and even if we don't feel like we saw ourselves in you, I know that we see ourselves, I know for me, I just saw someone that I knew, that I know that I've judged because they've done that. And I didn't think, oh, maybe they are feeling this and they're putting up more walls. And I've just gone, why don't they just do the thing? Like, and it's like, well, maybe they are hearing me, but maybe they're not ready. And maybe, yeah, that shame is a huge component with vulnerability. Like, we can feel such deep shame. And yeah. And also, even if it is something good, like on the other side, if we do something that feels really like liberating once we've done it, like just say we write a post and it just feels like this is me, and it's like, or you share yourself. Often we come back the next day and go, what the fuck have I done? Like, I have so much shame, like, and we go, yeah, really into that. So yeah, where do I want to go this now? So if also, I just wanted to say, everyone who's on tonight, like, I would love you to, like, anything that comes up for you, or any questions that you have that you want to discuss, or if you want to raise your hand and talk about it. But I just also want to let you know that this is being recorded. It's only going to go on the group, but that just means that if you do choose to unmute yourself and talk, that yeah, the people in the group might be able to see. I just wanted to let you all know that. See, did I tell you that part? Now, okay. Yeah, so let's talk about how it feels. Like, what does vulnerability, I know that vulnerability feels different to everyone, but let's go with the good ones, the good feeling, like just like I really want to have that conversation with that person, or we'll just say you want to ask someone out, or you want to like post that thing, like, but what are the feelings that you get in your body, and like what happens to you in those moments that you're like, I feel like it's a yes, but there's that response in your body? Can you hear me too?
Are you asking me?
I'm asking you.
Oh,
and everyone else. Have a think.
That's like my favorite place in the whole world, that feeling. I love that so much. And I think you have to train yourself to love it too. I know a lot of people who don't love it.
Yeah.
And I always feel so sad for those people, because I feel like they miss out on so many beautiful opportunities, because they're just not prepared to cross that threshold and do the crazy shit that is needed to break to that place.
Yeah.
So for me, oh gosh, I'm trying to think of good examples. So I remember when we did core, and I think week 2, Kat, you set up a stage at the front of the room with the fairy lights. And you said,
that's so
please,
mean of me.
It was really mean of you. Please, anybody come up the front and sit and sing a song or do whatever. And, I remember sitting there, and I think maybe the first week I passed, in fact, because I felt that feeling, and the feeling is, for me, it's like this intense sense of like, you have to do it, you have to do it. There's like a little voice inside of me that just starts like, you should do this, you should do this, you should do this, and put your hand up. You're going to say something, you want it. And then every other bit of me would just go, no, don't do it. You're not ready. You don't have anything good to say. And all the stuff, you guys know all the stuff that comes thereafter, like the story about you're too much, you're not enough, you're not acceptable, you're not going to do something perfect, your voice isn't great, someone else is better than you, all those things. So they all came. And so it may have been the next week that I actually did get up. But for me, there's always that little voice, but it's insistent for me. It's really there, and I can hear it so clearly. And I don't know that everybody hears that voice as clearly as I do. And the more clear I get as a human, and I mean that in literal senses, like less fried foods, less sugar, less drugs, less booze, less television, as well as in a sense of like the more I practice doing those things and therefore listening to that voice, I feel like the voice gets louder. So that's cool. But yeah, I think the more you practice listening to that voice, the very next part is like you just the legs get up and the mouth opens and whatever's going to come out comes out.
And then so with you, for your, like, if you were to look at your processes, is it because a lot of people, they don't even get to the point of sharing, like, and that's the thing I think is a big one. Like, vulnerability is seen as a weakness, and we've been told from such a young age, like we've all had experiences where we've been told don't do that, or you're too old to do this now, like that's all happened. So like vulnerability, like to get to the point where you are doing the thing, most people don't even get there. Like that voice is not loud enough, and there's too many walls and there's too many like things that stop them. So like, so for a lot of people, like they would never even do the getting to the thing that they know. Like there is always that voice. Like there are so many people I've met where they're like, I really wanted to be a singer when I was little. It's like, well, when's the last time you sang? And they just don't, because like there's just been like wall, can't, like it's too scary. And then so there's people who won't even try, or when they do, they feel like they're gonna, like people who like vomit side stage before they walk on because they're just terrified. Then a lot of people, like while they're performing, they are just so in their head judging themselves and they can't really enjoy it. And then there's some people who look and act really confident, do it, and then judge the crap out of themselves afterwards and have all that shame come up. So for you, where does it feel like it shows up the most, or at all, if anything?
Yeah. So this was another thing that I found when I did core. The very first time I performed, I remember getting up, and before I sang, I was going to sing a song, can't remember what I sang, but I got up and I sat in front of the group and I looked at everybody and I said, I'm going to sing a song for you. My voice isn't very good at the moment because I have a nodule on my vocal cord. So just bear with me, but I'm going to try. And then I sang my song and I felt good that I did it and we were done. And then the next time we had the opportunity to sing again or perform, I got up again and I sang again. And before I sang, I did the same thing where I said, I'd like to apologize to you. My voice isn't good tonight because blah, blah, blah. And it was at that moment, as it was coming out of my mouth, I was like, fuck, you do this every single time. Every single time you're going to share something that's vulnerable of yourself, you apologize for being before you do it. And so I just made a little pact in my head that night that I would never do that again. And I've caught myself once or twice, just maybe, but it's actually something that I'm very clear with now, that if I'm going to do the thing, I try to lead, like whatever it is that's, you know, and I'm talking, I'm talking about like my creative stuff now. If I'm going to speak publicly or, I don't know, share some story with a client about something that I think might be useful to them, or play a song on guitar, which I'm still learning. I make a real point of just offering my gift wherever I am at with the gift right at this moment, because I'm getting better all the time. But like if I get hit by a bus tomorrow and today's gift is the level I've got to in my life and that's where I'm at, then that's what I have to offer. And I don't think that it's something that I should apologize for. It's like such a blessing to be able to offer whatever you can offer, I feel.
Yeah, love that. Yeah, and I remember that moment when you just got up and you just started singing, and it was like, holy shit, like, because it was like you showed up so differently, because that's the thing we always think, like, if I just dump all this crap first and then I do it, there won't be as much judgment, because they'll know, like, it's like we're trying to source what judgment might come up from other people. But then that's the thing I want to talk about with your experience there from a witness, if I can, is that those first couple of times, you went from here and then you performed and it was beautiful, but because you'd done that whole judgment dump thing first, the connection level the third time you did it was so different. Like you got up and you just connected straight away, and everyone, I just remember everyone just being like, she's on and I'm witnessing, and holy crap, like it was so different. So I love that process for you, because like and it's just obviously shown up for you since then, so it's great.
Yeah.
The judgment thing, let's as we're doing this, like if I ask Tracy a question, and like, because you've all, you know, done, you're all creatives, you've all done things, you've done core, or you've done you know, you've gone on job interviews, or you've wanted to, you know, share something of your gifts. So I just want you, as I'm asking Tracy, if you feel like you want to put in the comments what it is for you. So if I ask about the process, like what is it for you, like I'd love you guys to feel like you can get involved. I'm loving some of the comments that are happening. What an amazing, yeah, I love it. Yeah, so the shame thing, let's just go there for a moment. So the judgment, like so when we're being really vulnerable, like, and that's the only way, I feel like the only way we get to joy and the only way we get to creativity and innovation and all of those things is through vulnerability. Like we can't actually get to the really good stuff without it, but it feels so ugh. And so most people don't go there because it's like terrifying. You don't know. The other thing is, you don't know, once you do the vulnerable thing, you don't know what other people are going to, you have no control on what other people are going to say about it, do about it, any of that. You have to kind of leap off without knowing that stuff. So yeah, it's like, it's so worth it, because the joy is so intense on the other side, like sometimes. And if we can get past that, the ick, yeah, and do the thing and know that it's in alignment and we want to really do it, like it feels right. I just want to talk to you about the shame that can come up afterwards, and that, yeah, the yuckiness of having shared, or yeah, what comes up for you there, T, if anything?
That's not an area where I'm laughing at myself. I'm such an outrageous being usually that and I have no filter also, so it's kind of a thing for me my whole life, where I'm sort of, I feel like I get past the shame in most cases of what's come out of my mouth, even if I do say something that's really controversial, or you know, something that I should maybe regret later. I often don't. I'm like, oh, whatever, I've done it again. And so that's probably not an area that's a big thing for me, which I'm grateful for. Yeah.
Yeah, and I think a lot of people do feel like vulnerability is just oversharing. Have you noticed that? Does anyone relate to that, or feel that from people? Like, I think I've even felt like that sometimes. I think when I started doing, you know, Facebook Lives and things, like, and I could see it on Facebook, that the people that were like the vulnerability people on Facebook, like, would just, you know, I felt like there was often this like overshare, and that's me being vulnerable. And it's like, is it? Like, I don't know, there was sometimes a disconnect for me, and I'm just wondering, yeah, I think for me, vulnerability is just like showing up. And as you said before, it's like, it's you doing the thing. And with that, the way that I've gotten past the shame thing, because I had a lot of shame even just starting in my own business while being a mum, and like all the crap there, it's just like, what I did was go, I'm doing the thing, and people might be judging me, but the people who are judging me are not the people who are showing up doing their thing. They are backing me. The people who might be judging me are the people who aren't showing up, who are not, and as Brené Brown says, like, are not in the arena. Like, they're not doing the thing. They are on the sidelines watching. And I've learned that it's not actually worth like giving a crap what they think. And what I care about is the people that see me for who I am. And when they do, I have never met someone who doesn't back me and doesn't want to like lift us up and support us. So yeah, the shame, because the shame thing that came for me was, you know, I started doing Facebook Lives, and then I'd then kind of look back and you'd start going, oh, not many people, you know, these people didn't like it, and these people have unfollowed me, and I started like worrying a little bit about what people thought. And then I just started realizing every time that those people were just not my people. Like they were just not, they didn't get me, or I hadn't shown up myself to them in the past. Was another part of it as well. So yeah, I think it's just like, it can be really scary, but it's so bloody worth it, and you find the right people who are there to lift you up when you do it. Yeah.
Can I say something about that, Kat?
Yeah.
I feel like my experience of that has been that, so I used to hang out with a lot of people that party a lot, you know, lots of them are DJs and artists and amazing designers who create beautiful costumes and things like this, you know. And you know, so they're like techno basically. It's not really my jam, you know. So I rolled up at a party once, and they had a talent show, you know, and it was like just a fun festival at my friend's house for a weekend. And so I got up on stage and I sang a song, and it was a song to creation, like to God, all about my love for what is, you know. And I thought, oh man, all my friends are just going to think I'm tripping. So I was I was sort of a bit like, oh, how is this going to go? This is just going to be so, I felt like I was worried about what that would come out like. And, you know, what happened was every single person who was there, like every person that I spoke to afterwards was just giving me so much love for my contribution. And it didn't matter if it was their jam or not. It was the fact that each one of the people, and more so anybody who was also on that stage, was giving me love for what I'd done. Whether or not they liked it, they were just happy that I showed up. And I think I find that in my life as well, you know, people, I feel like there's never been a time where I've shown up to perform or say something or do something, even if it's been shit. Like I've done some shit things that I've been afterwards like, oh my God, that was so bad. Or I've seen a video and I'm like, oh no, did I really wear that? Did I really look like that and sound like that? And maybe I was drunk or something, you know, and done something not so good. But just the fact that I showed up and did the thing, I think I've never, ever had somebody come back to me and go, that was shit and you should be embarrassed.
Yeah,
Never.
oh, never. And if they had, is that person in the arena? Like, is that person like,
yeah.
And that's their shit as well. Like you've obviously projected something that they're not ready to deal with as well. So yeah, it's interesting. Yeah, that's awesome. That just reminded me of a time I was in Lennox Head. I was 15. I wasn't meant to be at Lennox pub after hours, but I looked like 18, with my sister, and it was an open mic night, and it was just like real rockers, like it was a rock night. Everyone was like guitar and like singing like dirty old songs, and it was so loud, and I was like so cool. I was like with my sister, and she was like a little bit too, she was like, Kat, you need to sing, I need to hear your voice. And I was like, this is not really, you know my voice, like, and I had all this judgment, like I can't sing my type of stuff because I'm at this thing and this is what the rules are in my head about what is allowed. And she introduced me to a guy who'd been singing, and he's like, yeah, I've got a songbook here, like are there any songs that you know? And literally the only song in the songbook, I did not know any of these songs, like big book, there was one song, Somewhere Over the Rainbow. And I'm like, I can't sing Somewhere Over the Rainbow at Lennox Pub at 10:30 p.m. with drunk people everywhere. It's so loud, they're not even going to hear me. Like all of these stories, I can't do that. And it wasn't even though I was like not willing, like I loved performing at the time. I was like, I had a lot more confidence than a lot of people with that. But I was just like, this isn't the right vibe and they're going to judge the crap out of me. And I did it. And the most amazing thing happened. Like, it just started getting quieter and quieter. And like the rowdiest, loudest full pub, Lennox pub, just started getting quiet. And it was like I was just loving singing with this gorgeous guitarist. And it started getting quieter, and I was just like focusing in on my sister, because in my head I was like, someone's going to throw a beer at me and I'm going to like get kicked out. I was staring at my sister and she was just welling up. And then I was like, okay, I can't look at my sister anymore. And I looked at my brother-in-law, who was drunk off his nut. He was welling up, but like almost like sobbing out loud. And I was like, okay. And I started looking around and everyone was looking at me. No one was talking. And I just like was like, like I was in it. And it was the most beautiful moment. And my sister has never forgot. She's like, Lennox pub has never done that before. And afterwards I had these big bikey dudes coming up like with tears in their eyes going like, that reminded me of my grandma. It was so beautiful. Like just like the most beautiful like people connecting. And I all of a sudden had made all these friends, and I had that story that had almost stopped me, that I wasn't allowed to do that because of these rules I'd create, like all this crap that wasn't real. Like I gave people an experience that might not have, like, and there might have been people there going like, put on the better music, I hate this song. Like they might have been feeling that, but yeah, there's definite people who connected with that moment. And I just felt like after moments, like every time I do something like this, I have this moment of like going, what else can I do where I can get rid of some of the stories and actually do the thing that I want to do without getting in my own way all the time. Yeah. So pretty powerful, this getting past our shit and doing the thing. I like it. Speaking of, someone just bought a house.
Yeah, me.
Yeah.
Look at that.
That's huge. It's pretty amazing. Got to get through a few of those stories and blocks to do something like that. Hey,
Can we talk about getting through our shit?
Yeah, please do. God.
Great. Excellent. This is my favorite topic.
Go.
So, so I just bought a house a week ago today, and I'm 43 and I've been a single mum for 15 years. And I have a business that I started with a business partner who knew all the things about business, and I knew this much about business. And we went in separate directions 3 years ago. And for the first 3 months of me having the business by myself, I thought I was going to go bankrupt. Kat heard this story the other week, and I cried every day to my dad, like, I'm going to fuck it up. I'm going to fuck it up. And then once I finally just accepted that I was probably going to fuck it up, I started taking bigger risks because I knew that it was probably not going to work anyway. And so then as soon as I started taking bigger risks, I started doing things like spending more money on marketing, asking people who I thought were too good to do the marketing for my business to do my marketing. And all of a sudden my business started making money, and now I've got a really great, successful business, which in turn enabled me to buy a house, which I've had a story like my whole life about how I needed a man to help me buy a house. But unfortunately, I seemed only to be able to date unemployed drug addicts. So that was not so useful. So I've been smashing a bunch of my stories the last few years. But before that, the things that I have kept around in my life, and I wanted to bring these up because I feel like when I talk about this stuff with clients a lot, because I'm a health practitioner, and you know, these things come into play when we talk about people's overall health picture and well-being picture. And I feel like everybody's got some of these things, and you guys can add to this list. So let's make it a collaborative list. But there are millions of things that people do to keep themselves small and to make themselves right. So, you know, while ever I thought that I would never be able to buy a house because I didn't have a partner who would contribute money toward that dream, I just didn't even bother starting to save any money toward my house and putting it in the bank, because I had this story that I couldn't do it. So it's like a confirmation bias where I just was looking for evidence that I couldn't do it, so I wouldn't do it. And then there you go, I was right, see? And so the ways I feel like this shows up in our lives around our gifts, you know, we all know somewhere in there, like there's things we're good at. Maybe like we're really good at doing tricks on skateboards. I'm not good at that. Maybe we're really good at playing the trumpet, or maybe we write really cool raps, or maybe we're like longing inside to be the world's #1 dog groomer. I don't know. I'm just like, but I feel like everyone's drawn to something, you know, or some things. And there's so many of us have got like lots of things I think that we could do, you know, but I think there's so many reasons that we have for not stepping forward. So Kat, you were talking about shame before, and I think shame shows up in a lot of ways, which is another conversation. So the fear of not doing it perfectly stops us from doing it at all. That imposter syndrome thing that comes up, you know, someone else can do it better than me. You know, like if I were in a talent show, I'd listen to you sing and I'd be like, oh, I'm not getting up after her. No, forget it, you know, but my contribution is just as valuable because it's mine, and there'll be a different flavor and a different something. But, you know, there were years where I would tell myself like, no, not compared to that person, I'm not doing it. So I think it shows up in different ways. But then I also find, and this is what I find with my clients, the ways that we keep the lid on our box is we're so skillful, we're sneaky as well. So for me, I was so busy being cool when I was in high school that I didn't ever want to do violin practice once I got to about 15, and I was really good at the violin, but I didn't want to look like a dork. So I started smoking cigarettes and hanging out with boys, you know, so it kind of put it away to the side. And then in my 20s, I was going out and partying. I was getting drunk all the time. I was smoking cigarettes. Like, I cannot tell you the number of things I've done to abuse this part of my body, which is where obviously my voice projects from. I have tried to drink it away. I've tried to smoke it away. I've tried to snort it away. I've done all the things to harm just this part. No other part of my body would I abuse like this. But, you know, there's something that wanted to be born from me, and I was too afraid to let it out. So for years, I overate. I did everything I could do to keep that small and broken. And now, I've sort of shed a layer here, no more cigarettes. I've shed a layer here, no more booze, just little bits all the time. Like, I'll just take a break for a bit, and then I would notice more would come out, you know, more singing would come, more voice would come. I noticed with clients, people give themselves injuries. People actually make themselves sick, like make themselves ill. People who are great at sports develop these mystery injuries, or like stomach problems or other things when they get to a certain level. And in order to get beyond that level, they've got to move away from home, or, you know, they've got to become more professional, or go to a different trainer who's going to push them harder, or develop a different style of running, for example, if they want to be become more elite. And so, you know, I've seen people do these crazy things where big problems show up in their personal lives and their health. It's amazing, the myriad of things we do, and we just, like, we're not even conscious, we just
even see it. No.
Do it.
Yeah.
We're crazy. And very sneaky.
And that's why I think it's really good to have other people that you can be like you can talk to and be vulnerable with. And even like you as a practitioner, like if I were to come to you and go, I don't know why my shoulder's sore again, I've just launched my business again. Like, and it's like, well, you just, like, I think you see that, like I might not see that, but you do. And I think if we surround ourselves with people who are very intuitive and see those things, a lot of them are blind spots. A lot of them are things we don't see. Even I've just been reading a fantastic book called The Big Leap, and I really recommend it if you haven't heard of it. It's incredible, but it just talks about these glass ceilings that we don't even see. And when I was at your practice recently working, I realized that I had this like this lid that I couldn't see. I'm like, why can't I get to these people? And this is where I'm at, and this is where I'm at now. So this is what I can do. And I didn't realize, oh, why don't I just like talk to people who I feel are out of reach and start like opening that ceiling. And it was literally just a thought, like I hadn't even thought of that, and now it's possible. So yeah, all of these things show up in our body and we don't see them. So it's great to have other people kind of shine a light there as well. Really good. What you were saying just then, it just reminded me of something that Brené Brown said the other day, and I wrote it down and I was like, oh my God, I have to share it. It might not feel fully connected, but I got there. So we'll see if it does. But she said, vulnerability is joy, and we are afraid of joy. Okay. We dress rehearse tragedy. So that reminds me of like, if I'm looking at my daughter and I'm like, oh my God, I've never loved anyone so much in my life. This is the most beautiful baby in the whole entire world. Often in the next like moment, I'll be like imagining the most tragic scene of like her getting hurt or something. Like it's like we cap ourselves. We go, I can't experience this much joy. And that's why we often have those injuries come up and we have those ceilings that we can't see, is because we have this feeling of joy and then we go, I'm not allowed to have that. We'll go back to the quote. I got off track. So joy is the scariest of human behaviors, because we are afraid that if we let ourselves lean into it, that we will get sucker punched by hurt and pain and disappointment. So I think a lot of us feel like joy is the best and sadness, anger, like they're the bad emotions. But I love how she's like, it's the scariest. Joy is, why are we so scared of joy? Yeah. And I think the vulnerability is us stepping into our joy. And it's scary because all of us have had those times, even if it was before we remember. But we've all had those times where we did say, Mum, I want to sing you a song. And they laughed at us because they were thinking of something else. And we went, oh my God, I can't do that again. Like we put up these walls and we don't allow ourselves to feel pure joy. And even how she's like, this is Brené Brown, who, if you don't know her, she researches joy. She's like she's an incredible research, joy, vulnerability and shame researcher. And she says vulnerability is joy and it brings us to joy. So it's like, why can't we let ourselves have it? It's like so much fear packed around our joy. Like what if, and we can't keep it. We're not allowed to feel joy because like if we go there, it'll be taken away from us. Terrifying. I would love to see if there's anyone here has any questions or anything that's come up for them that they would love to unmute. Just remember we're recording, so make sure you're okay with that. Vanessa, yes, can 100% relate to so much of this conversation about shame. I was telling myself for so many years, stories and talk didn't serve my purpose to play small. This then showed up in physical ways.
I'm happy to share.
Thank you. I was like going, here's what just happened for me. Okay. And I was about to like go, oh my gosh, I want to apologize. I said your name and then read it out and I hadn't got your permission to do that. So I just wanted to be like, if I do like paste this, I just need to make sure I have your permission to do that. But you should talk about it, Vanessa.
It's fine. Hi, I'm Vanessa. Hello, everyone. I love this community and all you guys and Kat, what you created. It's been the biggest opening of vulnerability for me and healing my wounds that, I had so many stories playing out that I was never a creative. Everybody else was the artist and the creative and I never was. And I didn't really understand what core was all about. And then even the moment before I was going to walk up the stairs, and I'm such a confident, fucking powerful, outspoken woman, like can stand up on stage, can sing in front of thousands, like I don't have a problem. And I had a problem in this moment that I didn't want to stairs. I thought, what have I got this group? This music, they know how to sing. Like, yeah, I've done things, but they're like way up here. I'm not even in that league. Oh my God, what am I doing? This is stupid. And so I actually created a live before I went in there going, oh my God, I'm so scared, because I'm always wanting to help somebody else out there. That's what my purpose is in life, about self-love and my journey. And I could go on for hours, but basically what come up for me in that conversation just now was all about those stories, those dark stories that I told myself for so many years made me play small, and then it showed up in such a physical experience of going through breast cancer 12 years ago. And it's such a gift and a blessing for me, because I know who I am now, and I fucking love who I am, and I'm got the best relationship with myself now because of that self-discovery and that self-love. And that's now my gift and my purpose. So
it's such a gift. Yeah, thank you so much. And I love the fact, I feel like one of the reasons, oh sorry, I didn't realize you'd frozen. Sorry Vanessa, I'm just interrupting you. Yeah, I really love the fact that you said that you usually don't feel that fear, and that, you know, those things can come up, but it did before core. And it's like, it's interesting when because that was such a vulnerable space. Like, I think a lot of the time we like do things and it's fun and it's silly and it's this, but I think because we'd created that, like, this is a vulnerable container, as soon as we go, okay, I'm now in vulnerability, all of our things come up around comparison, like all of the comparison stories, all of that started coming up. It was like, this is going to be vulnerable. So what are all those things that want to stop me right now? They'll always come up. So yeah, it's really interesting, but I'm so glad you did. And I said it last week too, Vanessa, but you're such a permission granter. And I love the fact that you just keep showing up. It's actually really inspiring to me. And it's one of the things I haven't mentioned, but tonight I've been really like quite unwell all day, like really like, and I had this horrible day and I was almost asleep like 10 minutes before the call. I was like, but I was like, what's vulnerable to me is showing up and not cancelling, because I have spent a lot of my life cancelling if I wasn't going to be able to show up perfectly. And yet there's that thing, because I've been practicing this for so long, I know that I want to have these conversations. I know that I'm going to feel better once I'm on that call. And it's like the practice makes you go, actually, it's worth it. But it's from people like you, Vanessa, that, you know, you keep showing up. You're like all over my Facebook. You're showing up and you're who you are. And it's actually super permission granting, even for me. So thank you.
thank you. That's beautiful.
Yeah, I love this conversation. T, did you want to say anything on that? Trixie T?
I like who you are too, Vanessa.
It's pretty great.
Thank you.
It's awesome. It's so, I love that so much. It's so beautiful when, especially, I don't know, I mean, I'm biased because I'm a woman, but I love like when other women are just like cheering for each other, you know, and I think we're so good at it. It's beautiful. I have a friend who told me once, she's in her 60s, and she told me that she was doing a meditation one day, and she had this whole vision in the meditation that her life's purpose was to cheer. And she could see herself at the sidelines of a parade, and everyone, you know, all these people were just walking along the parade. And she said this was this vision in her meditation, and all she had to do was clap. And she says that to this day, it happened like 10 years ago. This must have happened in her life. And she told me this story. She still thinks about it. Her only job in life is to clap. And just to clap for everybody else as they rise and rise and rise. And I fucking love that.
Yeah.
It's amazing.
And I think it's a good one to switch out. If you've got a story that women don't celebrate each other and that we backstab and that we compare, and we like, I know that that's a story a lot of us have. And it's like, instead, let's have the story that we cheer each other on and just believe that. And the people that do will show up. Yeah. That's for all of us. Yeah. We're almost finished. Does anyone have anything else they would like to add or ask before we kind of bring this one to a close? I love all the people on this call. Just looking, it's always like most beautiful faces. And
my heart feels cracked open because I've just been drinking my cacao. So it's like, you know, like it's all flowing out now.
I love it.
The heart chakra. I feel like something else big come up for me as well. I love the story that people have about me.
Just got a Jasmine.
That they think that I'm too old to be, and they get so worried that I'm in, you know, I'm 44 and, you know, some people know my story, but I've gone through a couple of miscarriages in early stages, and the learning and the growth and the relationship again with myself has been such a blessing, and the understanding of that I've really been scared of my own body because of things that I've gone through. And so it's about connecting more with my body and accepting that. And once that happens, I know in my heart of heart it's going to happen, and I'm going to create it in another beautiful way that people are going to go, oh my God, you naturally had a baby when you were like, what, 44 or 45? Oh my God, that's just unheard of. I'll be like, I was on the side cheering myself on.
Yeah, you've got to be your first and best cheerleader. I love it. Like, that's amazing.
Yeah.
Yeah, beautiful. Thank you for sharing. Anyone else want to say anything? We're finishing up in a moment. Thank you all so much for having been here too tonight. It's just good. I love that, you know, Mark's got his Mark, you read what I asked you to do. I'm like, make sure you're comfy and look at you. Oh my God, it's so cute. Amazing. So I think T, thank you so much for jumping on tonight and doing this with me. I feel like everyone just got a little insight into our chiropractic sessions. Like, this is pretty much all we talk. We just talk about really big, deep, amazing stuff. And we talk about, you know, sex and things sometimes.
Yeah, sorry, I was muted, but we haven't had any of that conversation here, so.
No, we didn't talk about sex. No.
You're getting the PG version.
PG version tonight. Amazing. Thank you so much though. I love talking about all this with you because I know how passionate you are about it and how you are it. And that's the thing, like often I feel like I often do this. I don't know if any of you do this, just to finish up with. I don't trust myself often just before I do the thing, in that, you know, I've created core, so I obviously trust myself a bit, but I will be like, okay, tonight's topic is vulnerability. I don't know anything about vulnerability. I need to go find out what the dictionary says, and I need to go watch Brené Brown things, and I need to like know what I'm talking about. And I sometimes forget that I have a life, like I have a life of experience of showing up in different ways of this. And I have my experience. I don't have your experience, but I'm happy to hear you. And what I say, there's something that you will connect with. And I am happy to learn. I am happy to talk with people who know more than me, and I want to learn. And I think that's something I want to give you guys permission with, and that's something that I want to step into more. And if you see me doing that, where I'm like, if you see me post a Wikipedia definition of anything on bloody Core Community Hub, can you please just remind me who the fuck I am and that I know some of this, you know, myself? Because I sometimes do that. It's like vulnerable for me to go, I am, you know, a person who knows about this stuff, when it's just my experience, and that's okay. Yeah. So all of you, I want you to give yourself permission to go, everything you want to have a say about, you've got your experience of, you know shit about, and stay open, but also trust yourself. Yeah. And it'll be okay. Yeah. One last thing, Trixie, before we go, give me 3 things that these beautiful humans can do if they are feeling like they want to step into something. Like, just say they want to post on the Core Community Hub page, if you want to do it, but something's like, you just say, you're like, I've just written this poem and I really want to share it, but blah, 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 blah. What are 3 things that they can do to kind of help them with that vulnerability and moving into the joy?
Do it anyway. Just do it anyway. And then don't think about it. And if you post something on social media, do it anyway, and then put your phone somewhere else for a while and don't look at all those little red badges. You've put me on the spot, Kat.
I love it.
I've got two other things that I want to share. I'd like to say about that, but they're kind of more long range. So like maybe not, you know, if you've written a poem and you want to post it tonight, it's probably not going to help you in that period of time. But I do think I've got some winners for like more long term. You know, this is where I'm at. This is where I'd like to go. And there's a big discord between these two things. And so I want to get myself more here. How can I do that? And I feel like language is something that's really underrated. So there's two things that I have found have worked an absolute treat in my life to get me from shitty place A to amazing place B. And one of them, I don't have one here. One of them is a few years ago, I did a thing where I got some paper and I just wrote one word on the paper. So one of the words was sovereignty, and I really wanted to feel what it felt like to be my own person because I was in a really codependent relationship. And I photocopied that. I wrote it and then I did some beautiful artwork around it, and I photocopied it 7 times. I don't know why 7 because it's a magic number, but you can do it as many times as you want. And I put it in my bathroom, in my toilet, in my workplace, on my computer, in my workroom, like everywhere in my life. And I did that with probably about 15 words at that time. And I reckon that was maybe 3 years ago, 2 years ago, something like that. And I've been finding them all as I'm packing to move house. And I realized that I have grown from here with every single one of the qualities. They're all values that I wrote down. I've grown from here to here so much. And literally I did nothing. I just wrote it and posted it around. And so it's kind of more long range. But, you know, if you want to be brave, you could just write courageous, or you could write brave, or you could write fabulous poet and stick it on your wall 1,000,000 times. So yeah, that's like DIY without doing anything. Make yourself a better human. Number one. Yeah, it works. Well, it worked for me anyway.
Yeah.
And the other thing around language that I think is really important is every time you tell yourself this story. Oh, my dog wants to go outside. Every time you tell yourself the story, or you tell someone else the story when you're speaking actually out loud, that oh, I'm an idiot, I did that wrong, or oh, I suck at this, or I whatever. And, you know, I know we all have heard this information about like, don't talk to yourself like that. You need to be kind to yourself, you know, so we know. And I think sometimes we catch ourselves and go, oh, and we just keep talking. Like, you know, we might think afterwards like, oh, I did that, you know, maybe you're at that, maybe you're not even noticing. But I think if you get to a point in your life where you notice that you say things like that in any context, you, like what's helped me a lot is to actually, I will stop the conversation in the middle of the conversation and say, I'm sorry, I'm going to repeat what I just said, and I will say it again a different way. I'm still not good. Like I might have said, I'm no good at guitar. Or I said to someone the other day, yeah, I just hack things at guitar. And I was like, no. It's not true. I'm still learning guitar. I'm getting better at guitar every day. And so I change the language every single time I catch myself. I actually stop the sentence and I'll say it again, and I do it in front of clients. I feel like sometimes people must just go, oh my God, this woman is a lunatic. But I feel like language is, it really makes our reality. So they're the things that I do. But yeah, they're more long range than right now. I feel that, you know, you've got to start somewhere.
And practicing that is so something you can start now, and just realizing when you're doing it. And that's the difference between shame and guilt, is like, I can say I'm an idiot, like I'm stupid. That's shaming myself. That is me feeling like I'm not worthy, I don't belong, I'm not a good person. Or I could say I did something stupid that wasn't in alignment with who I am. That's guilt, and it's okay. Like that's okay because it doesn't align with me and it doesn't feel right, and I can change it. So wording is huge, but it's the feeling as well. It's like, I'm not an idiot. I did something really silly that, and the reason I know that is because it wasn't aligned with my values. It's not just fear. It's like, it wasn't aligned with me, so it was wrong. I can have a feeling of guilt, like, but don't use that shaming language, because that's that whole belonging, like I'm not worthy. Yeah. Let's finish up there. Thank you for your little tips as well. I love that writing down one word. I'm so big on one clear. I've gotten like, my goal setting has gone from like pages of lists to one word per year. Like just one word for the year. That's going to be my, what do you call it? New Year's resolution. Let's just do a one word goal setting for the year. I'm all in. Thank you everyone for being here. I love you all very much. And that was such a beautiful discussion, and I'm going to post this on the group so you can tell people if, I'd love, actually, this is one thing I'd love, if you have enjoyed this, can you please just comment on when I do post it, just comment so that people feel like, you know, they might engage with it a bit more. I'd just love us to all, you know, do what we can to, if you feel to, but if you have enjoyed it, just comment on the link when we put it in the Facebook so that other people might go, oh, I might check that out later, and they might learn something or love something or connect in a bit more with themselves or with the group. Lots of love. Thank you very much.
Thank you.
And good night. Night, everyone. Mwah, mwah, mwah. How do I